Hello and welcome back to Continental Club, where we discuss the hottest topics in European football. As you can see, we are not in the East Dulwich Tavern. Henry is off to Liverpool in a few hours, so there's a bit of a scheduling issue. Anyway, we are filming it in the FD studio, which you probably actually haven't seen that much of. We do Stat Wars against the other wall. But anyway, it's not quite finished yet, but we are in it nonetheless. How are we doing, lads? McCubs, are you well?
Yeah, I'm all right, thanks, Diggs. I'm all right. How are you? I'm
very good indeed. I'm good. Excited for this episode. Henri, you okay? Have you recovered from Fulham's meltdown at the weekend?
We were just talking about it, McCubbin and I. Yeah, it's weird. I've seen people defending Mitrovic. It's indefensible. I mean, I've never seen a meltdown which is so, you can't blame anyone for it other than the Fulham players. It was shocking. But for 75 minutes, we were the best team. It just kind of feels like Fulham seasons now. It's been great anyway, but I don't think we're going to get European football. I think it's just going to be a very respectable...
You've got to take that, surely.
Yeah. You can still fight. You're still in the fight.
Well, I think Brentford, Brighton, even United, maybe Spurs, under, potentially, Ryan Mason, could be even better. But yeah, no.
Or Oliver Glasner.
It was fun while it lasted for 70 minutes, and then it was actually quite comical.
Fair enough. I still feel like it should have been Sunderland.
Well, I don't.
If only we'd won at the Cottage in the FA Cup. I will never get over that. Anyway, we are going to get into today's episode because, as you know, it's international break, so there'll be no big match predictions. We always take a week-long hiatus during that, but we thought we'd do a pretty juicy episode, actually ranking the biggest transfer rumours for the 2023 summer so far, and there are numerous ones. We are going to kick off with the big one, the one everyone's talking about. You're going to hear enough about it, but Jude Bellingham to Man City or Real Madrid, Henry. Felt like it had a small update this week from David Ornstein to do with Liverpool. What happened?
Yeah, David Ornstein's come out and said that it's looking highly unlikely that Liverpool are going to get Jude Bellingham. Obviously, there's big competition for his signature from Manchester City and Real Madrid, reportedly. And it just looks like Liverpool, certainly this season, are falling behind in that hunt, aren't they? I mean, if they don't get Champions League football, which things like losing to Bournemouth really do kind of destabilise that whole process. I think they still could definitely do it. But yeah, if they don't have Champions League football, and we saw them pretty comprehensively beaten by Real Madrid over two legs, you are looking at it. And if you are, I think Rio Ferdinand said it. If you're Jude Bellingham, you're probably thinking maybe this isn't the right time to go to Liverpool. And I think in a bidding war against City and Real Madrid, Liverpool, although not as poor as they seem to always claim they are, it's going to be difficult for them to really put together the financial package to not only tempt Dortmund, but perhaps tempt Jude Bellingham as well, when he's got two other pretty reasonable offers on the table. So yeah, it's going to be very difficult for Liverpool. And during the World Cup, it really did look like Liverpool might be the one. We saw a lot of the jokes with Jordan Henderson,
Trent,
and he would be good in that midfield. Actually, I'd rather see him play there than Manchester City for various reasons, but yeah, it's tough for them. It's been a difficult season for Liverpool, as we'll probably talk on a bit later. Could get even harder this summer in terms of certain developments. Yeah, let's just look at Jude Bellingham while we're here. Still only 19. He's played 168 club games already. That's absurd. That is absurd to have been that experienced. That already he's got a DFB Pokal under his belt. Could be a Bundesliga winner at the end of this season.
Go check out Continental Club Extra if you want more information about it.
Absolutely, go do that. Yeah, he quite clearly the main man in this Borussia Dortmund team. 8 goals and 5 assists in 31 league games and Champions League games. He's just so consistent, isn't he? When he turns it on, his range of passing, his ability to drive the ball. I think we saw some of the best of him at the World Cup too. He's an absolute monster. I think we've said this a few times. Physically, he's huge. I remember seeing him up close at during the Euros when I was at Wembley, and he really is impressive. He's an impressive man.
He's a unit.
He is a unit, and yeah, so you can see why people want him. And yeah, I mean the question really is what's the better move for him? There is certainly space in that City midfield. He's a massive upgrade on Calvin Phillips. I'm not sure Calvin Phillips maybe even be there after this summer. It's hard to say. You can see him going there. He offers something a bit different to when we've seen sort of Bernardo Silva drop back, etc. And I think Guardiola's woken up to the fact that he needs to keep refreshing this midfield, and he's actually been quite good at that with City, not sort of moving players on when you least expect it and keeping the team moving forward. Certainly with Bernardo Silva again, there's lots of talk that maybe Atletico Madrid would want him. Maybe he's pining for a move somewhere else, maybe back to continental mainland Europe. So, yeah, I can completely see that happening. And actually, for a team like City, buying a young English talisman like Jude Bellingham I think it fits what they're trying to become in terms of legacy as a club and heritage. But also Real Madrid. I mean, why wouldn't you want to go there? It is true, Camavinga, Tchouaméni, Valverde, 3 central midfielders under the age of 24. Do they really need to spend 100 million plus on a central midfielder? Certainly with Benzema 35, Carvajal needing replacing at right back. Although I think they've got the Rayo Vallecano right back. Maybe that's left back. Forgive me. Let me know.
Left back. Yeah.
Okay.
Fran Garcia, I think.
The very man. But yes. I mean, they certainly could need replacements in other areas. Let's not forget they were willing to spend some ridiculous amount of money on Mbappe at one point. So they clearly do have funds available for a wider rebuild, and they've been fairly frugal beyond the big kind of Tchouaméni outlay in the summer. But yeah, I still think that it was no bad thing having another midfielder in there. Modric really.
No bad thing having Jude Bellingham.
Well, yeah. I mean, we say that, like, obviously Modric is playing out of his skin at the moment, but you can't just expect him to keep going. You can't expect Toni Kroos to keep going. Like there'll be a point where they have those 3 midfielders, and that'll be it. And I think this Real Madrid side, what they are, that they're trying to build, the next great
dynasty,
Real Madrid dynasty, exactly. It would be a bit mad to see them spend 100 mil plus on 2 midfielders in 2 years. I mean, no one has anyone ever done that before? I don't think so. So it would be mad to see them do that. Like, I don't think it's necessarily the wrong decision for them to make, but it's just never been done before.
Valverde plays further forward. We've seen Camavinga fill in at other places.
Yeah,
it's if you're competing for as many trophies on as many fronts as Real Madrid are, against the very best, surely stacking up that midfield, like Kroos has got 1 or 2 years really, realistically. I mean, I appreciate at least there's. At least they're making incisive big money transfers on players that are, if they're buying loads of £50 million players that weren't doing anything, which we've seen plenty of teams do in the past, then it's slightly concerning. At least they're spending big money on made players that are going to be there, and as you said, essentially stock up that midfield for the next 7-8 years.
Yeah, I mean, and let's not forget they got Camavinga and an absolute snip as well. So yeah, I mean, for some reason I just see Jude Bellingham in a Real Madrid shirt. I kind of feel like if I was him, that's what I'd want to do as well. In a way that, weirdly, Haaland, I always thought Man City was his best option. For some reason, I don't know what it is. Maybe I just think
he'll be at Madrid in 5 years.
I think Bellingham. Yeah, I mean, Haaland probably may well go to Madrid eventually. For some reason, I feel like Bellingham doesn't need that stepping stone to Madrid. I feel like he's ready made to enter what is probably the best midfield. But I mean, yeah, for sure, City. I think you talk about Bernardo Silva. In some ways, I feel like he's like a super upgrade on someone like Gundogan, who obviously is quite defensively minded, but also is quite underrated in the final third. And out of all of the Man City players, I think Gundogan is. I feel like Gundogan. I think he's probably the oldest. I feel like he's the most likely to have like a 1-year sudden drop off. I think they can still rely on KDB for the next 2-3 years, I think. But yeah, that midfield also does need. Yeah, it needs more work. I think there's more chance, I think, of maybe Bellingham having a really decisive impact at City quite quickly, whereas at Real Madrid, I could see him, taking a couple of years, not necessarily being the main man while Benzema's still there. Modric was still there, and then we come back in 2 years, and he is just the best midfielder in the world, playing in potentially the best team in the world. I would go for Real Madrid. I really like. I mean, this is going to be this could potentially be a very, very annoying transfer saga over the summer. But as rumours and speculation goes, I mean, yeah, Bellingham to either of these clubs would be like an amazing move. So it has to probably take top spot, doesn't it?
Absolutely. In our ranking, it's got to be up there. Right, let's move on to Mo Salah. And I feel like we talk about this every year, but there has been a report this week from Santi Auna, a transfer journalist, that Mo Salah is open to leaving Liverpool this summer. And if he was to leave, he wants to go to Spain. McCubs, this feels like deja vu. We've had this every year for about 10 years. Surely this isn't actually happening. I mean, his agent has already come out and said, we haven't even discussed this.
Yeah, I mean, it seems completely absurd, and it seems kind of if it was to be true, that it would be incredibly knee jerk from Salah, who hasn't really been like that so much. I mean, obviously his agent has been, has kind of played with Liverpool a little bit over the years, but obviously he signed that 3-year deal last year, £350,000 a week reportedly. He is approaching 30 now, or is he 30? I forget. 29 or 30, isn't he, Mo Salah? And yeah, it just doesn't make any sense that he wants to leave at this moment in time. And if he did, then he's played it really badly, because there's no reason why Liverpool would want to sell him.
It would take so much money.
He would cost at least 70-80 million pounds, and no one in Spain is going to pay that for Salah. Even Barcelona, who maybe a year ago would have.
Barcelona probably was.
And even Barcelona this time last year might have been tempted, but they bought Ferran Torres, they bought Rafinha, Ousmane Dembele. Signed a new deal last summer, didn't he himself? They still have Ansu Fati. Yeah, and I think Barca and Real are the only two clubs in Spain who would realistically go for him. Could I see anyone else on the continent going for him? Maybe PSG in the past, but I don't think they're going to be wanting to sign another attacker who could be passing his peak in the next few years. Unless they were to somehow get a big windfall for someone like Neymar, I could maybe see that happening. But yeah, I don't buy this at all.
It doesn't feel likely. I mean, yeah, as we say, Barcelona a few years ago might have, but Real Madrid have splurged a lot of money on aging wingers beforehand. Eden Hazard, that hasn't worked out at all. I mean, he's still yet to play 75 games for the club. He still hasn't scored 10 goals in all competitions. He's wasted on the bench. He says he doesn't want to leave. I think he's on £450,000 per week. They're just not going to buy Salah.
To be fair, though, if you plonked Salah into that Real Madrid side, he probably would. Yeah, he definitely would bang, wouldn't he? I guess
it's just not a good long-term investment.
No, it's not a good long-term investment. But if you wanted success now, and he could play through the middle as well when Benzema's not fit, it would be. Yeah, he would be great there. Equally, you would miss the. I think what. This Real Madrid side, especially when you have Fede Valverde on the right wing, you get that kind of defensive work that he is actually so important to that side, especially when you're in the Champions League and whatnot. So yeah, you would miss that. But I think if there was any side that he could just fit into instantly, it would be Real.
Yeah, it'll be interesting. I think they might well go for a right winger this summer, because Asensio's leaving almost definitely, and Rodrigo, probably still needs a few more years of developing. I don't think he's been quite as good this year as he was last year, particularly in the Champions League. We haven't really seen him deliver on the biggest stage like he normally does, but no need to worry about Rodrigo. It's just, I think they might get a right winger, but I think they might get a sort of backup to Rodrigo, someone that can challenge him. Right, let's move on to Mostafeli Razvan's suggestion of Messi back to Barcelona. Speaking of familiar stories, it's back again, and Sergi Roberto has ramped it up further after El Clasico. Roberto was asked what he thinks about Messi returning to the Camp Nou, and he said he would be welcomed back with open arms. Of course, he's a former teammate. He's going to say that. But there is a little bit of a story developing in that PSG season has pretty much collapsed, it would be said, after that exit to Bayern Munich. Messi was booed going out onto the pitch before their 2-0 defeat to Rennes at the weekend. And, Sergio Roberto has said he can't understand it. He said, you can't understand why. He is having good seasons in Paris, scoring a lot of goals and assisting. They've taken it out of him because of the elimination from the Champions League, but he's a spectacular player, and it's very bad that a player at this level is treated in the way. It's obviously natural that former teammates are going to be defensive and sensitive to the way he's treated. But there is also, Messi could well leave PSG. His contract's expiring at the end of the season. There was an option to extend it, which seemed like after the World Cup and that sort of fantastic 2-week period after sort of 2-week honeymoon, it was like PSG going to extend his deal. It seemed like he was going to, end his European adventure at the end of next year and then maybe move back to Argentina or the MLS or Saudi Arabia. Now, apparently, PSG are having doubts about whether they want to extend it for another year. But I can't see him going back to Barcelona. They just can't afford him. Javier Tebas has told them that they need to lower their wage bill by €200 million to get under the limit for 23-24, which is a massive amount of money. There's now speculation that Ousmane Dembele might leave, of course. And L'Équipe have backed this up. They're saying that PSG are having second thoughts about extending his deal. and you can kind of see why. Do they need these three superstar attackers? It hasn't really yielded that much in the last couple of years, and he's on enormous money. He's on 729,000 euros per week, He's still been excellent this year, though. 17 goals and 17 assists in 30 League and Champions League games. His expected goals and assists per 90 ratio is third in Europe behind Benzema and Mbappe. So he's been brilliant, but it just feels like they've got a decision to make, Henry.
Yeah, first of all, the treatment by the PSG fans is ridiculous. I mean, certainly in the first leg of that Champions League, and then the first half of the second leg, he was really the main creator, sort of trying to drop deep and make things happen, and he's come up with some big moments this season as well. That free kick against Lille. So I think to suggest that he's not been trying or whatever is just absurd. Like you said, 17 goals, 17 assists is weird. I do think Saudi Arabia is looking more and more likely with that link that he's got there and the agreement, and we've seen the kind of money
thing.
Yeah, you've seen the kind of money they're willing to put on Ronaldo.
Yeah,
I think that's probably going to happen.
It does feel. I mean, when that friendly that they played when Ronaldo first got there as well. I think the problem for PSG though is they didn't necessarily need Messi in the first place, but now I feel like they need him more than ever. Like, I mean, just from a footballing perspective, like if Messi goes out of that team, suddenly there's like a huge creative void.
Yeah.
Like you have to sign a world-class creator, and I know it's PSG, but like they're not that easy to come by. I'm trying to think who would realistically be.
Speaking of one, they are linked, Henry, with Khvicha Kvaratskhelia for 180 million euros.
Yeah, I mean, breaks my heart to read it. But yeah, Khvicha Kvaratskhelia to PSG. That's not surprising. What's surprising is that Le Sport 10, or Le 10 Sport, say they're willing to offer 180 million euros for the Georgian, which would make him the second most expensive player?
Yeah.
After Neymar.
It's not even that far behind Neymar's fee.
It's just funny how, in this cost-cutting era for PSG, well, they're planning to reduce the wage bill. They go and splash that much money on him.
Can't see that happening.
I can't see it happening. I can see them putting in a serious offer for him, and why not? I mean,
you could get 5 players.
It's funny. It's funny. Yeah, McCubs and I looked at kind of replacements for this PSG squad. If Neymar or Messi were going to leave, and we always just brushed over Khvicha because it was almost like, well, he's been at Napoli for one season. Would De Laurentiis sell him? Certainly with Osimhen looking with one step out the door. Kvaratskhelia, he's said that he would never play for another Italian club. He's opened the door to the possibility of moving abroad. So
he loves Real Madrid.
Yeah, does love Real Madrid, and I mean it's just difficult really with
he's not doing
Vinicius.
Yeah, I don't think they're going to get him.
It's going to be fascinating to see what happens to him. I hope he stays at Napoli for a few more years, but he is amazing, isn't he? 14 goals, 16 assists, 30 league games. I mean, he's probably the sort of unearthing of the year by a country mile. We've talked about him loads, haven't we? 11.5 million. Dinamo Batumi in Georgia was actually at Rubin Kazan beforehand, where he was pretty decent too. But yeah, it's he is exactly what I think they need. He offers width. He offers something different. Him and Nuno Mensch down that left flank would be pretty frightening.
Yeah.
As a creator, I mean, I guess Mbappe likes playing down that left flank.
That's the problem. Does it fit with what Mbappe?
Yeah.
What suits Mbappe? And
I feel like Mbappe wants.
Well, I feel like and I mean, I know that's always overstated that the power that Mbappe has, but if they are rejuvenating this forward line, and I think this was like one of the responses that we got a lot of actually after that episode of CC Extra is that. Yeah, like if PSG are going to spend big, and if they want to really build a new forward line around Mbappe in the long term, then surely they spend that kind of money on a striker rather than like a proper centre forward, rather than a winger who will occupy similar spaces to Mbappe. Because it's not like it's not like features like a touchline hugging winger. Like he does operate in similar spaces to him, and maybe they could work really well with each other, but. Like, are you going to get the best out of Mbappe?
Yeah.
By doing
they're going to be looking at Osimhen for sure, aren't they?
They should. I mean, yeah, if they were sensible, that's what they'd be doing. But and as there are other areas of the squad that are going to need replenishing, more pressingly than the left side of the attack, as you said. Messi and Ramos's deal is expiring. Marquinhos and Kimpembe, their deals expire in 2024. We have seen Skriniar. He is obviously arriving.
Yes, of course.
So they do have some kind of another body coming in there. But I mean, Ramos is 37 at the moment. I mean, still playing pretty well, to be fair.
But they need to think. They also need to think about. Well, I guess they've got Fabian Ruiz in, but I think even someone like Verratti, who hasn't been quite at his best this season as well. Like, I don't know. Yeah, there's and then the right hand side of the attack as well. But
I think Ekitike hasn't worked. I think it is an example of
so young
going in,
and he's got quite a bad attitude.
Going in. Well, there was that video of him calling himself a god or something like that in front of, or looks-wise, in front of Mbappe. He didn't look too amused, but yeah, I think that is an example of a young striker having one good season and maybe taking.
His numbers were insane though last year. Like
they weren't that great. They were
pretty insane.
I don't think
a really bad team. They were pretty insane. But I mean, again, it was a very small sample size, and like going from where he was last season into superstar filled PSG team is never, that it might not translate. But I wouldn't. I don't know whether he'll actually get the chance that he.
PSG was too
deserves.
soon.
Yeah.
PSG was too soon for that move. Certainly with the forward line, they already had. So yeah, they need a new forward, as you said, Osimhen, etc. Yeah, I think Kvaratskhelia will be in a Napoli shirt next season. Fingers crossed.
Absolutely. I mean, if they're selling Osimhen, which feels way more likely, then I'm sure they'll be able to hold on to Kvaradona and get a serious windfall on the 10.5 million euros they spent on him. One of the bargains of the century, to be quite honest. Right, let's move on to Mohamed Kudus to Milan. This came in from @WA Carlos. This is quite exciting, McCubs. What did you make of this?
Yeah, I think this would be a really interesting move and one that could solve some problems for Milan. Obviously, Kudus at Ajax has been very versatile, and I know, that kind of the number 10 / centre forward positions are quite kind of fluid in that Ajax system. They certainly were under Ten Hag. But I mean, the fact that he's played mainly as a centre forward or on the right wing this season, despite, actually being quite suited as well to playing behind the striker through the centre, playing in midfield. That's where we saw him play at the World Cup, wasn't it? And he was excellent there. It suggests that he could also rival someone like Brahim Diaz, who's been quite hot and cold in the centre, hasn't he? He has a month or two playing brilliantly, and then before you know it, the fans are on his back. And obviously Ketelare has played a lot through the centre as well this season, and we yet to see the best of him. We yet to see him really get a proper good run of games under his belt. But I don't see Milan selling him at this moment in time. I don't think they'll be able to get a decent return on their investment. They did invest a lot in him. So yeah, I do like Kudus. I think the question is, how much are Milan willing to spend on him? Because Ajax, he's got 2 years left on his contract. So if he doesn't sign a new one, then this is their last summer to really get a decent windfall for him. I think they'll charge at least 40 million euros for him, maybe more, given that they managed to get the amount that they did for Antony last year. The fact that there are clubs, more moneyed clubs, linked with Kudus this summer across Europe. But I mean, his numbers are great. Like, I mean, top 1% of attacking midfielders for non-penalty goals this season. He's going at 0.6 per 90. His output as well from the right wing has been great in recent weeks. He's been scoring, almost every game pretty much. Would we see him translate that form to Serie A in a Milan team that play a slightly different style of play? I don't think we'd be seeing him score 16 goals in his first season in Serie A, but he does offer a clear upgrade on the right hand side for sure. And the fact that he can play at centre forward as well means that that position, even if they were to sign another centre forward, because I think they probably do need to sign a specialist, they suddenly have quite a lot of depth in that area. So yeah, I really like it. It just depends. I just don't know what kind of money Milan are working with this season. They've obviously had to be incredibly abstemious in the past in terms of their work in the transfer market, and have kind of relied a lot on signing players where there hasn't been that much competition in the market for them. So that would concern me a little bit. But if they can convince him about the project, it is, I know they've been not as good this season. They need to get Champions League football, really, I think, to convince him that at the very least. But yeah, I would I think this would be a really cool signing if it came off.
I like it. It's a bit of a sliding doors moment because he nearly joined Everton last summer, and how different their season could have been, under Frank Lampard if they had Mohamed Kudus. I mean, they signed some good players last summer. Amadou Onana has proven to be a very good signing as well. So, how differently things could have turned out if they weren't relying on Neil Maupay for the first 6 months of the season. But yeah, Kudus to Milan. I think that's pretty good as well. Right, let's move on. Declan Rice to Arsenal. This came in from Harry Alvin. He's been talked about loads on Football Daily, so I'll keep this pretty brief. He's out of contract in 2024. He does have the option of a further year. He's valued at around 80 million euros now. West Ham are having a terrible season. It feels like the end for Rice at West Ham. I don't think any West Ham fans would really begrudge him an exit now. He's had his time there. He's been an amazing servant. It's time to move on. I could see Arsenal. I think Arsenal would be an excellent landing spot for him, to be honest. Even though Xhaka's been so good this year, I think Xhaka can be upgraded in the next couple of years. There's only really Jorginho as a really top quality replacement in that side as well. So Declan Rice just really improves the quality of that midfield as they go into a Champions League campaign where they're going to need more depth in those weaker areas of their squad. Henry, let's move on to Mason Mount to Liverpool. This is coming from Arta_untold15. I love this.
Yeah, I think this is great. When we think of a Jurgen Klopp midfield, which has been kind of really hard-working, nothing particularly flashy, it's just they very much serve the function of feeding the ball into that forward line and getting the job done. We've seen that time and time again. Milner, Henderson, Fabinho is obviously more of a ball player, but
Wijnaldum as well.
Wijnaldum, exactly, the man I was trying to remember. But yeah, no, these are kind of just will give you everything. Maybe not set the world alight with their numbers, but yeah, good people to have around. And Mason Mount really does fit the bill. I mean, people forget sort of his pressing numbers over the past few years for Chelsea have been truly absurd, on top of his creative numbers, which have really been forgotten about this season because he's having a bit of a bad season. 3 goals, 6 assists in 32 games.
That's not even... It's
not terrible.
Great, it's not terrible.
Absolutely. I mean, he's still young. He's a really good... There's a reason that every manager tends to look at him and go, yeah, I like you a lot. Certainly at Chelsea. And then he's been brilliant for England when used and called upon as well. It just looks like it's gone wrong at Chelsea, doesn't it? His dad has been joined by this new agent, Neil Fewings, to try and talk out a new contract with Chelsea. It sounds like in the style that we've seen from the Blues, they're trying to make him sign up to a mega long deal, which I mean, naturally,
8+ years, I think, yeah.
When you've had a difficult season, when the project's a bit up in the air at the moment, you're going to be hesitant about signing on for 8 years, especially when you're in his position. You played 192 games for the club. You come through the youth system. You kind of embody what it is to be a Chelsea player. I think he should be able to sort of negotiate some of this on his own terms, in terms of an extension. So yeah, and I think Liverpool would be a great option. I was reading about £50 million he might cost. I think that would be an absolute snip. Absolute snip for Mason Mount if you could get him through the door, and because you just know that he's going to perform. His injury record's pretty good as well, which I think that Liverpool midfield could certainly do with. At this point, Milner is finished. This is the wake-up call summer for Liverpool. They need to update that midfield. They need to do something and try and move on some of those players and bring in some fresh legs, and they don't get much fresher than Mason Mount in many ways. So yes, I would absolutely love to see this happen.
Yeah, I think so as well. I do feel like it's quite a telling sign that Man United want him, that Liverpool want him, and that Chelsea are potentially prepared to let him go as well. I think it's going to reflect very badly on them in a few years' time. I think he's at the right age. He's got the right level of experience. He won't take long to adapt to the Premier League. I think it's going to be a great signing potentially.
He would offer that Liverpool midfield something that they've not really had in a long time as well, which is that kind of hybrid of being someone who can really, really aid the forward line, who he can be actually quite flashy on the edge of the area as well, like or in a way that you just would never really see from Wijnaldum and Henderson. It's almost like they would finally be replacing Coutinho in some ways, at least in terms of having someone who can kind of merge with the attack in that way. I know they're playing a bit more of a 4-2-3-1 now at times, and you've got Gakpo and Jota who can kind of drop a bit deeper, and so in some ways maybe there's not as much need for that, but like I think the tactical versatility that would come with having someone like Mount would be a dream for Klopp.
I love it. One of the most Yeah, positive signings we've talked about so far today. Guys, what do you think about those signings? How do you rank them? We were a little bit hot on some, a little bit more negative on some others. Let us know, and let's move on to our big match. Actually, there's no big match predictions. Let's move on to our quickfire questions. As I said, there's no big match predictions this week, but let's review last week's action. So Bayern Munich versus Bayer Leverkusen. I went 3-1 to Bayern. Henry went 2-1. McCubs went 3-2 to Leverkusen.
Oh,
so close.
You said 2-1.
did I originally didn't.
You went for the bonus point.
Yeah.
But
I got greedy.
still,
I got
massive
greedy.
respect to McCubs. No one else. I thought he was mental. 1 point to him. Inter versus Juventus. I went 1-1. Henry went 2-1. McCubs went 2-1 to Juventus. So Henry went 2-1 to Inter. It was 1-0 to Juventus. So that's 1 point to McCubs. It's a pretty dead game, actually. I watched that. That wasn't a great spectacle. El Clasico. I went 2-1 to Real Madrid. Henry went 1-0 to Real Madrid. McCubs went 1-1. It was 2-1 to Barcelona. Shout out from Kessie for that last-minute winner. No points to any of us. But it does mean that the scores on the doors are very tight now. I'm on 51. Henry's on 37. McCubs is on 35. So
Late season surge.
going into the international break, squeaky bum time for Henry. You look nervous.
I just don't know. I'm beginning to think maybe I should just, whatever I initially think the score will be, just go completely the other way.
Good. I think that's a really good. That's a really good thing. Yeah, I think
the rogue shouts. But as I
that'll
said,
serve you in good stead, I reckon. Do that.
a little bit more crazy from McCubs is the message there. Right. As I said, no big match predictions, but let's do a couple of quick fire questions. Sean15 Mackenzie says, who is a player you were convinced was going to be a star but never succeeded? Now, I feel a bit bad for just springing that on you. I thought Tanguy Ndombele was going to be really good at Spurs. Hasn't really worked out, poor guy. I think he's had his injury issues, a little bit of attitude, or application rather, at points as well. Hasn't really forced his way into this Napoli side either. Did score an excellent goal, or an excellent team goal, at the weekend against Udinese. But yeah, Tanguy Ndombele would be my shout. Henry?
I was thinking about this earlier. Joel Campbell's like the classic that comes to mind.
Yeah.
I mean, sort of that Costa Rican winger that used to play for... He's still only about 29, by the way. He used to play for Arsenal, then had that amazing 2014 World Cup, or a few games certainly, scored a great goal. And I was thinking, this is...
Well, you were probably watching him live at that time as well.
Well, I don't remember specifically seeing him, but it was, it looked like Joel Campbell was really going to get his act together. Hasn't quite worked out at all. He's one I was thinking. Do you remember Konoplyanka or something like that, the Ukrainian?
Oh yeah, yeah, I know exactly who you mean.
Yeah,
always struggle with Ukrainian names.
He was at Dortmund, I think, for a bit. I really thought he was going to be amazing. That hasn't played out either. So yeah, a few people like that. People like even like Orsic. I thought at Zagreb, I was thinking, yeah, he's going to get his move. He's going to be great. He's gone to
Southampton.
He's hardly even featured. So yeah, I mean, I remember Burnley were looking at him last year, didn't go for him, and now he's gone to Southampton. So clearly he's just sort of relegation fodder. So I've got a few wrong in my mind, but yeah, there's certainly a few. Yeah, for me, Joel Campbell is the ultimate sort of failed star in some ways. But
Nice.
I mean, there's loads of.
And he was also part of that Arsenal team during the Leicester winning year, when at one point it looked like Arsenal were going to win the league, and he was in quite good form as well. I think that Adnan Januzaj always sticks out for me. Like he did. I don't think everyone.
Great goal against Sunderland.
Yeah, he scored a brace, wasn't it? I think his debut. He genuinely did look like a superstar in the making, though. He looked so good in a team full of like has-been world-class players. That his drop-off. I mean, he's not had a bad career, but given how good he looked at 18, 19, yeah, he's definitely up there. I forget his first name. Is it Emre Moore? Like, he looked amazing, and then he went to... I don't know whether he's... I actually don't know where he is right now.
He was at Celta Vigo.
He was at Celta Vigo for a while.
Dortmund,
maybe until
wasn't he, as well?
Yeah. He looked great. That was around the time that I started at Football Daily, actually, and like when I was first looking
Emre Moore fan.
Well, just looking through like young players, like statistics and stuff, and he was like popping in almost every attacking area of his game at the age of 19. So yeah, he sticks in my mind as well. I feel like there must be someone else. Do you have someone?
Yeah, I mean, it's more injury that robbed him, and some people remember this. Dean Ashton was really, really talented.
And he tore his Achilles, was it?
Yeah, he just got so unlucky. I think he had to retire by 26 or 28 or something like that. But peak Dean Ashton, he kind of, that goal we saw Evan Ferguson score against Grimsby where he flicked it around and just slotted home, that was what Dean Ashton was doing week in, week out. He had such a delicate touch for what was quite a big guy.
Yeah, it's big ass.
I don't think we really had seen an English striker like that for a very long time at that point. I mean, if you looked at him, you'd have thought he'd have sort of fitted the robust mould of heavy going forward, maybe could blast it. But no, he was a really, really talented forward, and I've always thought it's a shame that we've never got to see exactly how good he could have been, because, yeah, he would have certainly been an asset to an England side, which hasn't been like, other than Rudy and Owen, I think there's always room for another striker on that bench to at least offer an impact of the bench.
Yeah. Body of a builder, touch of a ballerina.
Really? Was that the?
That's what I just coined.
Yeah.
Wow,
beautiful.
Thank you very
Any
much.
you digs?
I liked Dean Ashton as well. Any more from me? Oh, goodness. I was quite excited when we signed Emmanuel Giaccherini at Sunderland, given he had 30-odd caps for Italy at the time. That was a big disappointment.
What about the American forwards?
Josie Altidore.
Altidore.
He got an assist in the derby against Newcastle.
Oh, was it like 0?
And then when we swapped him, he went to Toronto and we got Jermaine Defoe. So actually, I've got a lot to thank Josie Altidore for. If you're watching, Josie, thank you very much.
Also Mello as well. I feel like when he went to Barcelona, we were all prepped for him to become, the next midfield.
Hamill did think he'd be a great signing for Liverpool. I will say that. I remember having an argument with him about that.
Last summer?
Last summer, yeah.
Right.
He was quite behind it. To be fair, it was a deadline day signing and we were filling 10 minutes of content. But yeah, Hamill played the role of pro Arter very well. Anyway, I thought we'd give a very detailed answer for that. Guys, who was the star you thought was going to succeed but just didn't hit their straps? Let us know in the comments down below. And thank you very much for watching Continental Club for this week. We will probably be back in the East Dulwich Tavern next week, but let us know what you guys thought of the new set. Hopefully it sounded all right, looked all right. Thank you very much for watching. Get excited for Stat Wars tomorrow. It's myself versus Henry. Well worth watching. That's all I'll say. But for now, from all of us, goodbye.